Hello once again and welcome to our channel. Today we'll talk about how to improve fuel economy of your vehicle. Have you ever wondered why your car is beginning to use too much fuel? Watch till the end and save money on every kilometer. Let's get started. Avoid bad acceleration habits. Don't accelerate too fast from 0 to 60 in a few seconds. You are not a race driver. When your car is at a stop and you are about to move, don't push the acceleration pedal too much. Doing so will open the throttle too much, and this will make the car's computer system send a command to the fuel pump to pump in more fuel. Burning more fuel is equal to more money from your pocket. Increase in fuel consumption is not always a fault of the engine. In most cases, the fault is from the driver. How you drive the car would determine how much fuel you would consume. Because imagine when you are driving up a hill. Automatically, the engine will have to gather more force to push the car up the hill, which means more fuel into the engine to create more power to pull the car up the hill. So, if you are trying to put your car into motion and you put your foot on the acceleration pedal too much, that brings in more fuel to create more power to move your vehicle. Imagine when a car is stationary and you are pushing it into motion. When you begin to push it, you have to apply more force to be able to put the car into motion. But after it gets into motion, you don't need that extra force anymore. The same thing applies to your car when it is stationary and you are about to put it into motion by stepping on the acceleration pedal. Try as much as you can to keep your foot off the acceleration pedal. That will help you save enough fuel. Moving on to number 2. Change engine and transmission oil on time. Engine oil also contributes to a better fuel economy. It reduces fuel consumption in cars. This is because parts inside the engine moves, and if they don't move freely, the car's computer system will send in more fuel for optimal performance. This is because when there is friction, the moving parts in the engine will not be able to move freely. When the car's computer system detects that there is not enough power to move the engine parts to be able to put the car into motion, it will call in for more fuel, because the more the fuel burns, the more power that is gained in the engine, which puts the car into motion. So let me just give an example. Imagine when you are rubbing your palm against each other without any lubricant. How does it feel? So compare the two, that is rubbing your palm without any lubricant, and when you pour oil into your palm and you rub, how does it feel like? What is the difference? So that is the same thing that applies to your car's engine. The moving parts in your car really need lubrication to be able to move freely, and also to reduce heat, because friction creates heat. Also, your transmission oil is very, very important to change your transmission oil on time, because transmissions without oil also have moving parts which will increase in heat because there is friction. And since there is friction, the moving parts cannot move freely, and that will also put extra force or extra pressure or extra load on the engine, which will cause the engine to bring in more fuel to move your car. So make sure you check these two things on time always. The transmission oil and the engine oil must be changed on time. Change the spark plugs on time. Weak spark plugs increase fuel consumption, and strong spark plugs reduces fuel consumption. If the spark plugs are strong and it works efficiently, that is when your car's computer system will detect enough power to command the fuel pump to bring in just a little amount of fuel. because if the spark plug works very well, if it creates enough spark in the cylinders of the engine, there is no need to bring in too much fuel. The little fuel that comes in will be utilized very well. It will create enough power. So that is why it is good to use a strong spark plug. If you use a weak spark plug or a bad spark plug, your car's computer system will detect a weak power in the system, which means it has to bring in more fuel to be able to create enough power to move the vehicle. That is why it is good to use a strong spark plug in order to make the car's computer system bring in just a little amount of fuel to increase your fuel economy. The stronger the spark plug, the little fuel that the engine will consume. Also, to be able to detect which spark plug is good for your car, it is good to go to the manufacturer's website or you look through the car's manual to know which spark plug is best for your car. But there are spark plugs that are made in aftermarkets. They are called aftermarket spark plugs. So an example of an aftermarket spark plug that would help to reduce the fuel consumption in your car is iridium spark plugs. Iridium spark plugs are high-end spark plugs made for advanced cars to help them save fuel. So it is advised that you use iridium spark plugs in your car. How do you detect fake and original iridium spark plugs? Iridium spark plugs have black tips for the conductor metal in the middle of the spark plug. So if you are going to buy an iridium spark plug, make sure you look for the black pointed tip of the conductor metal in the middle of the spark plug. Before we dive into the next one, kindly support us by hitting the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified anytime we post a new video. Now let's get into the next one. To the next one, clean the air intake system regularly. It is good to clean the air intake hose, the air intake filter, the throttle body, the intake manifold, both in and outside. Let me take it one by one. First off, clean the air intake filter. Because the air that goes into the engine is not always clean air, the air intake filter gets dirty and clogged sometimes. Because that is where the engine sucks air through to the engine. Sometimes you get to some areas that are dusty and your engine still performs. Why? Because though the air is dusty, when the engine sucks the air, it is the work of the filter to block that dust and allow just the oxygen to go into the engine. And that is how the air intake filter gets dirty sometimes. When the air filter gets dirty and clogged or blocked, if I should say, and you don't change it, it reduces the amount of air or oxygen that goes into the engine to help the combustion go on or performance go on very well. In the case of the air not being enough, the car's computer system will once again detect that there is not enough power, which will cause the fuel pump to bring in more fuel. And don't forget, more fuel means more money out of your pocket. So you need to make sure your air intake filter is cleaned regularly. Secondly, the air intake hose also gets dirty sometimes. So every once in a while, you need to take your car to a professional mechanic to remove the air intake filter and the air intake hose and clean them and replace them back. If it is necessary to replace the air intake filter, you do so and replace them. The next one is to clean the throttle body. The throttle body receives command from the acceleration pedal. So, as we have learned already, the more you put your foot on the acceleration pedal, the more the throttle opens. The more the throttle opens, the more oxygen that goes into the engine. And the more oxygen that goes into the engine, the more fuel that will bring into the engine to create a very good combustion for the car to be able to move. So as time goes on, your throttle body also gets dirty. Usually it gets clogged by oil that returns from the combustion chamber. Some way, somehow, oil returns from the combustion chamber into the manifold and to the throttle body. So every once in a while, you need to take your car to a professional mechanic to remove the throttle body and clean it thoroughly. Clean both in and out of the throttle body. The same thing applies to the manifold. The intake manifold should also be removed every once in a while and cleaned thoroughly, both inside and outside, because there is oil that returns from the combustion chamber some way, somehow into the manifold. In the next one, we'll talk about using a strong car battery. It is very good to use a strong car battery because it also improves fuel economy. Somebody may ask, how does it reduce fuel consumption? A strong car battery reduces fuel consumption because there is not too much load on the alternator. Anytime there is too much load on the alternator, the engine needs a little more force to rotate the alternator to generate electricity. That is why in most cases, if your battery is not strong and you turn on the AC, your fuel consumption increases because turning on the air conditioning puts more load on the alternator. Especially at nights when you turn on your headlights too, that also puts more load on the alternator, which means the engine needs more power to rotate the alternator to generate electricity for the car. So, if your car battery is weak and already the alternator is working so hard to produce electricity to charge the car battery, which also puts more load on the engine, this will cause the engine to consume more fuel because it needs more power to do the job or to put the car into motion. And that is it for today's tips. Thank you for staying with us till the end of the video. We hope that you learned something new today. Please leave your comments in the comment section below if you have anything you think we should talk about. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.